So in the bigger scheme of things, well, you said a little while ago you have confidence. Do you see this? Where do you see this leading in the best case scenario? Of course, it can go any which way. As I've quoted here before, Roger Walsh's statement: "We're in a race between fear and consciousness."
Hmm.
And in the best case scenario, where consciousness keeps winning out, or eventually might win out. What do you envision as the?
Oh boy, it's hard to predict these things, but well, again, I'm going to refer back to my work with folks who are dying because it's where I learned the most. That they were my best teachers. I work with a lot of folks who lived on the streets. I changed diapers on park benches behind City Hall. And I worked with people who had no inner life and no spiritual practice per se, at least not a professed one. And they made remarkable openings. They were facing something that seemed unbearable to them or unimaginably difficult. And yet oftentimes they met it in remarkable ways. They found within themselves the resources, the compassion to meet the impossible in extraordinary ways. Now, sometimes that happened in the final weeks or days, even minutes of their life. And we might say, too late. And I would tend to agree. It's too late to start then. But what's true is if it's possible then, well, then if that possibility for transformation exists then, well, then it exists now. And we can move toward it. We can call on it now. I think, and this brings us into another subject, but I think one of the pieces that's most important here is our relationship to hope, and true hope, or what I call mature hope, is really what's, I think, called for now. Action, of course, but grounded in something like true hope or mature hope. And I think that's different than what we normally think of hope.
How is a quote that I love from Seneca, the Roman philosopher. He says, "We cease to be afraid when we cease to hope, because hope is always accompanied by fear." And on one level, that other kind of hope, I hope the worst doesn't happen, is kind of almost there's fear intrinsic in that hope. And how is mature hope different from that?
Well, I think it's, and here's the problem with such words, is that we've bantered them around and, neutered them oftentimes in the course of our discussions. But, I think it's a subtle, we could say, attitude of heart and mind hope, I think it's an essential resource for this human life. And it's the ingredient, we could say, that provides the motivation for us to get up in the morning, get out of bed, and go about our days. It's what Desmond Tutu talked about when he said, it's the light that shows itself even in the darkest of times, right? But, hope can take us beyond the rational. And that can be extraordinary because it enables us to survive sometimes. But it also can be, as you suggest, a kind of cause for delusion, and we have to be mindful of that, I think. To discern the real value of hope, of what I call mature hope, I think we have to draw a line between hope and expectation. We have to, hope is a kind of optimizing force that leads us toward harmony, I would say. But it doesn't arrive from the outside. It doesn't impose itself on us. It arises from within us. So it has an active daring to it, I'd say. And the usual kind of hope that we have is wishful thinking. Mm-hmm. And it's hope guised, or expectation rather guised as hope. It's fixated on a specific outcome, and it gets conflated with results, and it gets so object focused, right? So outcome focused. So attaching our hope or attaching our happiness to that is just a cause of suffering. It's not really hopeful.
Mm. I'm just remembering Joanna Macy, who's just such an inspiring figure. She wrote a book not too long ago called Active Hope, and she said for years she hated the word hope. She didn't want to go near it because it just seemed too airy-fairy, and it's going to work out just fine. But when she redefined it for herself as having a vision and just doing what you can to help bring forth that vision without the expectation, without looking and seeing, are we there yet? To just feel the fulfillment of moving towards that vision, and in the process inspiring others. Well, she came out writing a book. Okay, I'll write a book on active hope, as much as I hated that word for because
it's a great book, and it's well worth reading. I'd say to people who are listening to this. For me, I tend to agree with Joanna. I had a similar relationship to hope. I think, for me, hope, or mature hope, when I call it mature hope, maybe it's similar to what she calls active hope. It requires this clear intention, but also simultaneously letting go. And it involves embracing uncertainty, not trying to manage uncertainty, and it's really the hope in the potential of our awakened response, in something intrinsic in us that can come forward and respond.